He writes, "I have been thinking of all those letters you have. I think you should have a fire. Chuck them. You must. If there's one impassioned one that appeals to you, keep it until you're tired of it, but chuck the rest. They are too inflammable to keep. You know I am right." Fortunately for us, Carrie Phillips did not destroy these letters from Warren G. Harding. Even more fortuitous, a bootleg copy of a microfilm containing these letters came into my possession and became a part of the Harding affair. The relationship started in 1905, long before he was a U.S. Senator and certainly before he became President of the United States. And what happened in their relationship is the Great War intervened. So these letters are a story not only of this love affair, but of this great world conflict that intervened, and the fates conspired against them. One of the things I like about these letters is you can really get a feel for Warren Harding, the man. It's a very personal view, the kind of view you would not get from any other public figure, and we just don't write letters like this today. So let me give you an example. New Year's Day, 1913. Warren Harding is in his office at the Marion Star writing to Carrie Phillips about a New Year's that they experienced the year before when she had come back from Europe to rendezvous with him. And he wrote to her that he had had his bridge crowd over and they were playing bridge, but at midnight as the bells were tolling outside in Marion, Ohio, and she was far away in Russia vacationing, that he thought about her and thought about how they had been together in Montreal the year before. And he wrote, "Then I stopped play to have sandwiches and crack a bottle of wine so I could dwell with my thoughts. You can guess where they centered. On the New Year's beginning a year before, when the bells rang the chorus, while our hearts sang the rapture without words, and we greeted the new year from the hallowed heights of heaven. Fate timed that marvelous coincidence. It was impossible for us to have planned, and I count it among the best remembered moments of my existence." So this is the kind of thing that he wrote to her. You would never see that today, but it's an extraordinary story and an extraordinary look into a relationship. One of the things I discovered in writing this book is that Carrie Phillips was being followed by the United States government in the belief that she was a German spy. During the First World War, many German Americans in the United States felt that we should stay out of the war and that we should not get involved on the side of the Allies. Carrie Phillips was among those people. She and her daughter Isabel sat outside of a camp, a training camp for U.S. soldiers in the summer, the end of the summer of 1917, just after we had gotten involved in the war. And it's pretty clear from the government investigation and from what was going on and from relationships that Carrie and Isabel were going to parties with some of the soldiers and some of the draftees and trying to figure out how quickly the United States was mobilizing to get into the war. They reported that back through a family in New York City named the Pickharts, who Carrie Phillips' daughter was engaged to one of the Pickharts. And it seems pretty clear that the evidence that was being gathered back then shows that she and her daughter were acting as agents of the German government during the First World War. Another thing that I discovered in writing this book was that the world was changed as a result of this relationship. Carrie Phillips talked Warren Harding out of running for president in 1916. Had he done so, he likely would have won the presidency. Woodrow Wilson ran and barely won, beating Charles Evans Hughes, who was not much of a campaigner. But Wilson took Ohio by over 90,000 votes. Had Harding run, he would have taken Ohio and therefore the presidency. And the whole world was changed as a consequence. Harding would have been a much different president, war president, than Woodrow Wilson. And I believe that he would have been much different in how he negotiated the peace. So a counterfactual argument can be made here that as a result of this relationship, the entire world changed. In writing this book, one of the things that I quickly realized is that the cast of characters was quite elaborate, quite intertwined, and some of the great figures of history. You have Woodrow Wilson, you have Kaiser Wilhelm, you have Theodore Roosevelt, who plays a very big role in this book, Warren Harding himself, and then this whole spy ring, German spy ring within the United States, trying to uncover that, untangle it, and see what was going on. Took a lot of effort. That really, I could have written 3 or 4 different books out of these letters, but the relationships end up, I think, showing that Carrie Phillips did become a spy, and also that Warren Harding was very courageous and stood up to her, voted for war against Germany, even under threats from her. So it's a very interesting group of people in a fantastic dynamic of history. One of the things that I talk about when I talk about this book with audiences, I usually start off by describing how badly treated Harding has been by history. Almost everybody who talks to me about this book says, oh, Warren Harding, one of the worst presidents of history. And in fact, just the opposite is true. He was actually a great president. He did a number of things that were fantastic and that nobody remembers. For example, he gave a very bold civil rights speech in Birmingham, Alabama, in his first year as president. He went down and spoke to a group and said, democracy is a lie if Negroes are not provided equality and political equality in our system. Very courageous speech to give in Birmingham, Alabama, with 100,000 people in the square. He also pardoned Eugene Debs, who had been imprisoned by the Wilson administration for speaking out against the war. So there were countless things he did as president that put him in many ways in a great category, and for lots of reasons his reputation was spoiled after his presidency. And the fact is, nobody was there to carry the torch for him. He had no children, and his wife died very quickly after he died, so it was very much left open for all these people to come in and trash his reputation. I find that it's all been very badly distorted. It's a book that tells some amazing stories, not only of the 15-year love affair that Warren had with Carrie, but his difficult decisions and courage in making those decisions during the Great War. It also is a book about Carrie Phillips' potential espionage for the Germans during the war. And it is a story of a tangled web of characters, all of whom are significant in history, all come together in the Harding affair in one big, amazing story.